Hello, everybody. This is 3SP, and I'm coming to you with another update. Trump again cast blame on both sides for deadly violence in Virginia, and this one comes through Reuters. President Donald Trump insists on Tuesday that left and right-wing extremists became violent during a weekend rally by white nationalists in Virginia, reigniting a political firestorm over U.S. race relations and his own leadership of a national crisis. Trump, who drew sharp criticism from Republicans and Democrats for his initial response, reverted on Tuesday to his position that both sides were at fault for the violence, a day after bowing to pressure to explicitly condemn the Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazi, and white supremacist groups. Appearing angry and irritated, the president maintained that his original reaction was based on the facts he had at the time. Blame, he said, belonged on both sides. You had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. And nobody wants to say that, but I will say it right now, Trump said, referring to right and left-wing protesters. From there, the back and forth with reporters turned tense. Not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch. Trump said of the participants in the deadly protest, there was a group on this side. You can tell them, the left, that they came violently attacking other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is. The violence erupted on Saturday after white nationalists converged in Charlottesville for a Unite the Right rally in protest of plans to remove a statue of Robert E. Lee, commander of the pro-slavery Confederate Army during the United States Civil War. Many of the rally participants were seen carrying firearms, sticks, and shields. Some also wore helmets. Counter-protesters likewise came equipped with sticks, helmets, and shields. The two sides clashed in scattered street brawls before a car plowed into the rally opponents, killing one woman and injuring 19 others. A 20-year-old Ohio man, James Fields, said to have harbored Nazi sympathies, was charged with murder. Two state police officers also were killed the day in a fiery crash of the helicopter they were flying in as part of crowd operations. Many sides. Addressing the melee for the first time on Saturday, Trump denounced hatred and violence on many sides. The comment drew sharp criticism across the political spectrum for not explicitly condemning the white nationalists whose presence in the southern college town was widely seen as having provoked the unrest. Critics said Trump's remarks then belied his reluctance to alienate extreme right-wing groups whose followers constitute a devoted segment of his political base despite his disavowal of them. Yielding 2 days later to a mounting political fervor over his initial response, Trump delivered a follow-up message expressly referring to the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists and other hate groups as repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans. Trump detractors dismissed his revised statements as too little too late. His remarks on Tuesday inflamed the controversy further. Former Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke immediately applauded Trump on Twitter. Thank you, President Trump, for your honesty and courage to tell the truth about Charlottesville and condemn the leftist terrorists in BLM and Antifa. Duke wrote, referring to Black Lives Matter and anti-fascists. Democrats seized on Trump's latest words as evidence that Trump saw white nationalists and those protesting against them as morally equivalent by saying he is not taking sides. Donald Trump clearly is, said Democratic Senate Leader Chuck Schumer of New York. When David Duke and white supremacists cheer your remarks, you're doing it very, very wrong. In a similar vein, Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, a Democrat, said Trump's characterization of the violence missed the mark. Neo-Nazis, Klansmen, and white supremacists came to Charlottesville heavily armed, spewing hatred and looking for a fight. One of them murdered a young woman in an act of domestic terrorism, and two of our finest officers were killed in a tragic accident while serving to protect this community. This was not both sides, he said. A tweet by former President Barack Obama soon after the violence had garnered 2.8 million likes to become the most liked Twitter message ever by Tuesday, the social media network said. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or the background or his religion. Obama said in the tweet on Saturday, accompanying a picture of himself looking through an open window at a group of children. Administration officials, hoping to put the controversy behind them after the remarks on Monday, worried that the controversy would now last for days and potentially affect the president's ability to achieve legislative and policy goals. Asked about the White House's next steps, one official said, I think next steps are just to stop talking. Now, this article is going to keep going on and on. And I've addressed this topic previously, but it was before President Trump made his second remarks on the second conference that he had. Now, as I said before, and I still agree with it now, that he didn't address any specific group because he legitimately feels that both sides, meaning whoever was in the so-called left and the so-called right, were both violent. Now, and in his follow-up, he said that he didn't specify a lot of things because he didn't have enough information on the situation. And that's kind of true. But what we know about his whole presidency is that the media is going to demonize this man no matter what happens. And now this is just going to be the biggest fiasco to them ever. And the whole issue is that they're blaming Trump for Charlottesville. And they're crazy. These are clearly a whole bunch of hate groups on the right and the left. They're all hate groups. If you didn't know, the anti-fascists are a hate group because they hate anything politically right. They go to any politically right event and protest it, calling them Nazis. Now, a popular definition of a fascist would be people that conform. So, basically, people that have have similar viewpoints, have similar dress codes and all of that. These can be considered fascists. So one thing, you can always identify Antifa, or you can always identify anti-fascists, is because they will always have their face covered and they will mainly be wearing all black. So they come fascistly uniform, saying that they are going to attack fascists. Now, again, I'm not defending the view of the white nationalists. I'm not defending the view of the KKK or whatever hate groups were on the right that day. But I'm here to counteract the argument that The anti-fascists were there for peaceful protests, which they clearly were not. Even this article says that they came geared up for war. They came with helmets, baseball bats, and other forms of weapons. So, again, this whole situation was set up for people to fight. Both sides came for exactly what they wanted, to fight somebody. And if you look at it, most likely it was set up by the same people. But either way, this is too convenient of a situation, and the media is blowing this up bigger than it really needs to be. We already know that neo-Nazis and that white supremacists are hate groups, but they won't come to the reality that Antifa is a hate group. Now, another thing, what I don't get, how they always call right-wing or people that lean politically right, Antifa always wants to call them fascists, and they call them Nazis. And that's also another thing I don't really understand, how neo-Nazis right now, this time, are identifying with the political right, when historically they always identified as Democrat. Just like the KKK is historically Democrat because they're founded by the same people that founded the Democratic Party. Now, just going over it a little bit, Nazi in German stands for the National Socialist Party. And socialism is a leftist political ideology. Even Bernie Sanders is a socialist. So, again, a National Socialist Party is a left-leaning ideology. Now, Antifa are known to be communists. They even wave communist flags anytime they organize together. Always do it. And again, it's obvious that communism is a left ideology. It's a left-wing ideology. They both come from Marxism. They are both derivatives of Marxism. And Marxism is a leftist philosophy where both communism and socialism have their roots in. And if you ever read the Communist Manifesto, you cannot have communist or socialist uprisings without first creating the identity of an oppressed people and then identifying an oppressor. And as we're seeing right now, this is the biggest mentality of people that lean left right now, because the spectrum of left and right have moved so far now that anything that's considered left is now far left compared to what it was 20 years ago. So, again, the Nazis, who were definitely fascists, was a left-wing group in Germany. And again, fascists, they refuse to debate. Fascists refuse to give a platform to anyone with an opposing view. And they go by any means necessary to cut off opposition. These are the tactics of Antifa, or anyone that calls themselves a social justice warrior, that they refuse to hear opposing opinions. I'm more right-leaning. I don't identify as a Republican because I think both Democrat and Republican are controlled by the same corporations, the same banks, and the same groups. I think they're both false paradigms to give you the impression, or to give you the false illusion that there is a choice of Republican or Democrat. I more identify with libertarian, but I don't think I don't think the term libertarian is monolithic, because I think there's libertarian left leaning and there's libertarian right leaning. And I think it's up to the individual to agree with the policies that best fit who they are. Like, you could consider yourself more of a left person, but not support abortion. You can still consider yourself a conservative and still support certain things like abortion. I don't see really how that's possible. But either way, subscribing to these larger groups of Democrat or Republican, they're paid by the same people, the same lobbyists, the same everything. Anyone who has money, they will follow. And that's why there's a false left-right paradigm in the United States and in most of the world. Everything's controlled by the central banking system. And until anyone can really understand that, that's the reason why they can't understand that not only are there neo-Nazis and white supremacists being controlled by certain groups, that also the anti-fascists and other people who've been known to be paid by MoveOn.org, who is a Soros Group funded program, that these, again, are controlled by whoever has the money. You can look up on Craigslist before any large event or demonstration happens that they will pay you $1,500 just to show up and protest. They start off as paid protests, and then they have propaganda spewed out on Facebook, on YouTube, on any social media platform, and anyone who's coming with a genuine, trying to be unbiased opinion about the situation, they get shadow banned. Again, you have to understand what's really going on. So, one big thing, any racial identity movement, you're wrong. You're wrong, and you're probably paid for. I don't support any racial identity movement because it always leads to division. The biggest thing that these big corporations, that these big governments, that this whole global order is afraid of is all the people of the world unifying. Unity is our best option right now. Stop whoring out to corporations and corporate funded movements. You're all slaves. And this is where I'm going to leave it at. And just like I end with everything, we need to pray. We need to pray. There is a God. Even if you're not Christian, there's certain keys in the Bible that identify the true identity of God. And the New Testament, where Paul on many occasions said, God is love. God is love. And it also said that if you don't have love, you don't have God, because God is love. If you ever want to identify where God is in the world, God is in the expression of love. Love is the true expression of God through humanity. And any religion, any movement, any group that pushes hate does not have God. Because God truly manifests in love. That's why the Bible says God is love. And it's not only the Bible that says God is love. You can find that in many religious philosophies all throughout history. And then legalism comes in and destroys the true identity of the one true God, love. Love creates. Love overcame death. Love is the eternal force in the universe. Love is the reverberation that we all exist on. And the more we move away from love, the more that death creeps in. My encouragement, if you want to know God, know love, understand what love is, pray. Pray for people that you know even hate you, because then you will really understand love. When you could pray for someone that totally hates you, you have discovered love, and you have power that is stronger than death. And this is where I end it. And this is 3SP signing out.